This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 7th day of March in the year 2025. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The leader of the opposition, Norton, believes Guyana must significantly boost its military strength and capabilities amid increasing acts of aggression from neighboring Venezuela, which continues to lay claim to parts of Guyana's territory. Within a period of 5 years, Venezuela has built a bridge on Coco Island, conducted a referendum on the Essequibo region, and has subsequently signed into law the results of that referendum, laying claim to Guyana's territory in clear breach of the provisional orders handed down by the International Court of Justice. Over the past week, there was an incursion by a Venezuelan Coast Guard in Guyana's waters, and the neighboring country is also taking up plans to host elections for a governor for Guyana's Essequibo region. At a press conference this morning, the opposition leader said, in addition to the approaches to the ICJ and the request for support from the international community and multilateral partners, Guyana must boost the capacity of the Guyana Defense Force.
The evidence should be clear to all and sundry that from the building of that bridge, that from the referendum, the so-called referendum on Essequibo region, that should signal all of us that the government of Venezuela is becoming more and more aggressive and that we need to prepare for it. I had said to the president personally, not on this occasion before, that we need to buy more weapons and that we need to train our people in jungle warfare, intensify that training, carry it to the level that it was in the 70s, so that people can have confidence that even before support comes, if we are invaded, we have the capacity to keep Venezuela at bay until we get the required assistance.
Norton also said there was a close correlation between the incursion and the recent attack on Guyanese military men at the country's border with Venezuela.
Now, this is occurring at a time when the government is treating Venezuelan migration as just a thing for election purposes, giving them ID cards willy-nilly, when they should recognize that amidst the migration, Maduro is going to put people to infiltrate and destabilize our society. And we are not seeing a government that seems to be looking at this thing in context and holistically and developing strategies to deal with the situation.
The opposition leader noted that Guyana must be better positioned to respond to any other acts of aggression from the neighboring country. And in order to do so, it must better equip the defense force, including using technology to monitor the waterways and the airspace. According to Norton, the country has the financial resources to take the necessary actions to significantly enhance the military capabilities. Last Saturday, the opposition leader met with the president after the Venezuelan incursion. He said he was not at liberty to discuss a number of approaches being taken by the government in response to the Venezuelan acts of aggression. However, he told reporters that he was disappointed that past recommendations put forward by the opposition were not acted upon by the government. Those recommendations include dispatching Guyanese envoys across the Latin America and Caribbean region to provide countries with the facts on the Guyana-Venezuelan territorial controversy, publishing ads in newspapers in Latin America on the controversy, and mobilizing the support of the African countries, as well as creating a broad-based border commission. He said those actions can act as a deterrent to Venezuela.
That even if the International Court of Justice rule in our favor, that in itself will not prevent Venezuela. But the point to be made here is that we must do everything within our capacity to ensure we get to Venezuela. And whenever Venezuela acts, her acts must always be seen as aggressive and unnecessary. And as a corollary of that, we'll be able to obtain the support we need.
Norton also expressed disappointment that despite a commitment by the president that there would have been a strategic, well-focused public relations campaign at the local level to sensitize Guyanese on the controversy, that campaign is still to begin. More news coming up in just a moment.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look, you know the one, or one touch, even one word. I can start with one step, or one promise, one thrill, one first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
Your own home is so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Citizens, please be reminded that the Ministry of Housing and Water does not sell land or housing units through any third-party arrangements or accept payments through any mobile money platforms. All our allocations are done at our Brickdam Georgetown main office, any of our regional offices, or at any scheduled Dream Realized event. A message from the Ministry of Housing and Water, Central Housing and Planning Authority.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
Welcome back. Well, the Alliance for a Change today called for greater protection for women who are victims of domestic violence and for greater education and awareness to decrease incidents of domestic violence. International Women's Day will be celebrated globally on Saturday. And at a press conference this afternoon, female members of Parliament of the AFC, Cathy Hughes, Beverly Alert, and Jarita Finance all noted the persistent challenges of gender-based violence in the country. MP Finance noted that while the government has made some strides and revised its target downwards, the goal should ultimately be to stamp out domestic violence.
With a small population as Guyana, this goal should be much lower when it comes to protecting our women and girls. We need to have strong policy and enforcement to strengthen our legal frameworks, improve access to support services for survivors in all regions, and enhance public awareness campaigns aimed at changing our cultural attitude towards domestic violence.
For her part, Member of Parliament Cathy Hughes suggested that the question of domestic violence should be a subject of national discussion, noting that frequent reports are now untenable.
We cannot have people that get angry and at the end of an incident, put 12 bullets in somebody, and at no point after the first one was there an attempt to stop. So we have some serious problems, and it's been with us for a long time.
She also said while there are various causes of domestic violence, women in particular are at the receiving end most times and continue to lose their lives and face torture without mechanisms in place to protect them.
What we know is that there certainly is a perception that this most horrible culture we have that reflects in such a high incidence of domestic violence has been with us for a very long time. And the fact that we keep almost on average, as you would know, at least every 10 days there's a horrific incident that hits our mainstream media that we are all aware of. And that is women losing their lives the majority of times in relation to by people that they know, by their spouses, by their partners, by their paramour, whatever you want to call it. And therefore this is where we feel that in Guyana today, where we have several people that have access to weapons, whether it's a knife in a kitchen or whether it is guns, as the case of the last horrific incident, that we have to instill a culture of anger management.
Last year, while the country noted an increase in domestic violence-related cases, it also saw a 33% decrease in domestic violence-related murders. Leader of the People's National Congress Reform Aubrey Norton today downplayed any impact from the recent resignations of longtime party members Amna Ali and Vanessa Kisuun. He said the party continues to see new members being added to its role. In the case of former General Secretary Amna Ali, Mr. Norton said she has been inactive in the party for more than 3 years, and as such her resignation isn't an issue.
Amna Ali has not been involved in the PNC since December 2021 when I became leader. Most members of the party believe she had resigned already, so I don't know what is it that you're talking about. So as far as I'm concerned, that is a non-issue.
In her letter of resignation, Ali cited continuous disregard for women as the reason for the resignation and called for Norton and his entire executive to step down. Her resignation followed the resignation of longtime party member Vanessa Kisuun. Kisuun cited personal reasons for her resignation. Aside from Ali and Kisuun, PNC Reform member Attorney-at-Law James Bond, who once served in Parliament for the party, has publicly endorsed President Irfan Ali for re-election. Norton said the PNC will continue its work on the ground, engaging old and new supporters and gearing up for the upcoming elections.
It has been holding successful activities. You just need to look and see the turnout at our activities that are more than many that they had before. And so why should we worry? More and more people are joining the People's National Congress Reform and the APNU. More and more people are quietly supporting us. There will always be those who go after filthy lucre.
He said the party is not affected by the departures, and he expects that others may leave ahead of the elections. He said the PNC remains strong.
Our supporters and members are working, and they are satisfied that we can beat the People's Progressive Party. Why do I have to be satisfied or worried about somebody who claimed to be a long-standing member? I don't know if you saw long-standing member Vincent Alexander's response, but let that just go as en passant. Now, I'm saying to you, in all political parties, historically, you have had movement away from one party to the next. Let us not forget, Ranjit Chandni Singh, though on different grounds, ideological grounds, left the PPP. So did Vincent Tika and many others. We can go right back. There will always be people in a political situation who, I don't want to use the word opportunistically, but those who believe they are better served by joining the government. There will always be those. We have had Odinga Lumumba. It didn't destroy the party. Joe Hamilton. Has it destroyed the party? The mere idea of people leaving, in fact, some people that leave probably allow the party to breed. because some of the accusations made against them will no longer be targeted at the party.
Mr. Norton became leader of the PNC Reform in 2021 and won his re-election bid last year. He previously served as General Secretary of the party. As leader of the PNC Reform, he is the likely presidential candidate for the party heading into the next election. The Mays School, which was gutted by fire 2 days ago, is getting set to restart classes at the Old American School building in Prashad Nagar within another week's time. At a meeting with concerned parents on Thursday afternoon opposite the burnt-out school, the administrator of the school, Lucinda McCurdy, said the school is finalizing talks with the American School on the use of the property. She said in the coming week, classes online will start for the displaced students, and face-to-face classes should begin at the American School by the following week.
We have decided that we are going to be using the American School once everything is finalized. They asked us for some documents which we have provided, and we are waiting on their legal part of it. So hopefully we are going to be out, maybe not this new week here, the following week. So what we are kindly asking is to bear with us, and we are going to go online for next week. We don't want our children to be not occupied.
It was noted that the cleanup of the new location for the school will have to be completed ahead of time, and the school has already contracted a janitorial company to carry out the cleaning works. Parents were also told that the textbooks which were destroyed in the fire will be replaced.
I know your children's books, they were all burnt. So the government, they have also promised that they are going to help us with some of those books. So you should be able to get back most of your textbooks.
A number of parents called on the school to have a better emergency communication system in place, since when the fire struck on Wednesday, many of them were left unaware of what was taking place. The school has undertaken to put a better system in place. Investigations into Wednesday's fire are still ongoing. Over 1,000 students of the private school were left displaced. The school was uninsured and changed owners late last year. The school has not provided a rebuilding timeline.
Your own home is so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Ready to up your game? Ready to up your game? Win big with over 60 epic prizes. A brand new PS5, Nintendo Switch, iPhone 16 Pro Max, Apple smartwatch, and the hottest earbuds from Apple and Samsung. Plus, we are giving away thousands in phone credit and a whole year supply of Buster or Turbo Energy drink. Here's how. Buy any Buster or Turbo Energy drink, find the code starting with BB and enter online or on WhatsApp. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Turbo_Caribbean or Buster Guyana for all the details. Don't just play. Up your game with Buster and Turbo Energy.
Well, the Special Organized Crime Unit of the Guyana Police Force has denied that it has been withholding evidence in the fraud case against former Assistant Police Commissioner Calvin Brutus. In a statement, the head of Circuit, Deputy Police Commissioner Fizal Karambashk, rejected a report in another section of the media that stated that the prosecutors in the case have withheld evidence that appeared to be in favor of the accused Calvin Brutus. The SOCU head explained that at the latest court hearing on Thursday, the defense counsel for Mr. Brutus produced a letter addressed to the court requesting disclosure of over 50 statements, which he claims to be in the possession of the prosecution. Soku said the statements referred to by the attorney are either non-existent or have already been disclosed in other matters concerning the more than 200 charges of financial crimes against Mr. Brutus. Soku said all statements in the prosecution's possession which are relevant to the specific charge in the matter before the court yesterday have been disclosed by the prosecution to the defense several weeks ago. The Soku head described the defense attorney's request as a clear fishing expedition to bolster their case in the public domain and an attempt at seeking cheap publicity. Deputy Commissioner Karen Bax said the defense cannot direct the conduct of the investigations in the proceedings by demanding that Soku take statements from persons of their choice. He said the prosecution is well aware of its legal and ethical duty to disclose all relevant evidence, even where it could potentially be favorable to the defense, and strongly refutes any allegations and imputations to the contrary. Mr. Brutus is facing more than 250 financial crimes charges. Many of those charges are related to his work in the police force and payments to companies owned by his wife. The wife is also facing fraud charges of her own. Guyana has achieved more than 60% of the Needham's Point Declaration under the Inter-American Development Bank funded support for the Criminal Justice System program. The Needham's Point Declaration is a comprehensive strategy aimed at modernizing the Caribbean region's criminal justice system. It was adopted by the region at the time when the region was grappling with the issues of overcrowded prisons, lengthy trial delays, and rising crime. Attorney General Anil Nandlal has explained that under the support for the Criminal Justice System program, which was launched in 2016, the country has made significant progress in implementing the Needham's Declaration. He further explained that the criminal justice program was designed to reduce the country's prison population. However, in order to achieve that objective, a number of societal and systemic challenges have to be implemented while reforming the country's laws and institutions. As part of the program, the government commissioned 2 Hope and Justice Centers with increased access to the justice system, while support is provided to victims.
All of you would meet persons who have legal problems, but they can't afford a lawyer, or they need legal advice on a particular issue, or they have a case in the system, small case but big for them, and they need legal advice and guidance, and they can't get, they go to legal aid and they are turned away, they can't afford to afford to hire a lawyer. You hear about situations of domestic abuse. You hear of no alternative but for the victim to remain in the home where the abuse is taking place. You hear about child abuse also, and there is no place for the child to go. So the child remains in the home where the abuse is taking place. The Hope and Justice Center provides services for all of those issues that I've just raised.
The Hope and Justice Centers are equipped with lawyers, therapists, social service workers, medical practitioners, and they both provide accommodation and police protection for victims. However, the Attorney General expressed disappointment that the centers are not being largely utilized. Restorative justice was also a main feature of the support for the Criminal Justice System program, as part of the moves by the government to integrate restorative practices in the justice system. While it does not apply to capital offenses involving violent or sexual offenses, it is believed that the adoption of restorative practices can lead to the reduction in the number of cases before the courts. The Attorney General said over 200 persons have been trained in restorative justice, including lawyers and magistrates, teachers and public service workers, along with community and religious leaders and indigenous leaders. On the legal front, the country brought into effect the Restorative Justice Act. While acknowledging that there may be need for the act to be amended, the Attorney General said for the most part it has been effective.
By and large, it has worked. It has brought uniformity and consistency in the grant of bail. Some people may not like it. Some people believe that it removes discretion from the magistrate. Well, greater the discretion, greater the likelihood of abuse. Stronger the regulatory framework, the more uniformity and consistency you will have.
He said in tabling the bail bill, the government codified the common law position, adding that there is also a rigid system of appeal and review. Immediate family members of deceased persons who were registered for the cash grant but passed away before the grant's distribution can now uplift those checks, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal has said. During his weekly Issues in the News program last evening, Mr. Nandlal said the Deceased Persons Estate Administration Act, which was amended last year, permits and authorizes any person, organization, entity or bank or government who has money for any deceased person to pay that money to a duly authorized relative of the deceased person, up to $750,000.
What you have to do is to show the evidence of the death of the deceased. So the death certificate should be produced. And the person who is seeking to obtain the money must be either the spouse of the deceased, the surviving spouse, or a child of the deceased. To establish your relationship as a child, you can produce a birth certificate where the deceased would be stated as your mother or father.
Mr. Nandlal said although no such issues has arisen as yet, there are possibilities that some of those cases may present themselves, with over 100,000 checks still to be distributed.
Simply put, the wife or the husband or the children of the deceased person can present him or herself and uplift the check at the place of distribution. At the place of distribution. They would have to produce evidence of the death and evidence of the relationship that they are alleging with the deceased person. It's as simple as that.
The Attorney General described the cash grant distribution as a resounding success, noting that over 500,000 persons have already received their grants.
So you don't have to worry about the check being invalid, because there are persons out there who wish to deliberately mislead you because they are anti-government. So they are spreading this kind of wicked propaganda to cause confusion and mayhem among the people of this country. So every one of those checks would be valid for 6 and more months. At a minimum 6 months and more.
He said persons who encounter technical issues with their checks should receive their checks at a later date after interventions by the Ministry of Finance. Tonight, 2 Brazilian nationals remain in police custody following their arrest during a gold smuggling operation in the Letem region on Wednesday. A large quantity of gold and 26 million Guyana dollars in cash have also been seized by the police. The arrest of 42-year-old Albina Vera and 39-year-old Erisangela de Oliveira took place during a major intelligence-led operation that was led by the Special Organized Crime Unit in the Letem town. The 2 suspects are assisting the police with the ongoing investigations, a statement from the police said. According to the head of SOCU, Deputy Commissioner Fazal Karambash, SOCU officers were able to disrupt the smuggling operation before the gold could be moved across the border to Brazil. The police said the operation serves as a warning to individuals and groups engaged in such illegal activities, and that law enforcement agencies remain vigilant and proactive in their enforcement efforts. The latest crackdown follows a similar enforcement action in July of last year at the Ramada Princess Hotel, when officials responded to intelligence on illegal gold smuggling, and that resulted in the arrest of 3 Chinese nationals. In that incident, 2 searches resulted in the discovery of over 50 million Guyana dollars in cash, money counting machines, and an illegal firearm. Investigations are continuing with a view of prosecution into the latest case.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look. You know the one. Or one touch. Even one word. I can start with one step. Or one promise. One thrill. One first time. One deep breath. One leap of faith. One day to remember. Or one night to forget. One moment. So many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life. Just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyoil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
With your regional and international news tonight, I am Svetlana Marshall. In the region, infighting between factions of a gang vying for control over territory in Ecuador's largest city, Guayaquil, left nearly 24 people dead, authorities said on Friday. According to a report published by Reuters, gun battles broke out across the city on Thursday afternoon between members of a criminal gang. The local police chief, Pablo Davila, told reporters. Police launched an offensive in response, carrying out around 200 searches and seizing guns and ammunition. 14 people, including 2 minors, were arrested in the area. Several of those killed and arrested had criminal records, according to authorities, with charges ranging from robbery to drug trafficking. The government in recent weeks has doubled down on its response in Ecuador's most violent regions as part of President Daniel Noboa's war on drug trafficking gangs. One of Argentina's biggest cities has been hit by severe flooding after suffering the equivalent of more than 4 months' rainfall in just 4 hours. Heavy rain began lashing Bahia Blanca in Buenos Aires province at around 4 hours local time on Friday, turning streets into rivers and leaving large parts of the city without electricity, according to BBC. At a local hospital, newborn babies had to be evacuated after floodwaters invaded the building. Elsewhere, more than 40 families have had to leave their homes and the airport has been closed. Local authorities closed schools and suspended public transport. They warned residents to stay at home until further notice. And finally tonight, international news. U.S. President Donald Trump raised the prospect of imposing large-scale U.S. sanctions on Russia on Friday, days after pausing military aid and intelligence support to Ukraine, and he called on both countries to get on with negotiating a peace deal, according to Reuters. Trump's threat of banking curbs and tariffs followed a Reuters report on Monday that the White House was preparing to give Russia possible sanctions relief as part of the push to end the war and improve diplomatic and economic ties with Moscow. On his social media platform, Trump said, and I quote, "Based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I'm strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached." End of quote. Russian forces have almost surrounded thousands of Ukrainian troops who stormed into one of Russia's regions last summer in a shock incursion, which Kiev had hoped to use as leverage over Moscow in any peace talks. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall, wishing you a pleasant evening.